From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, after spending more than 6 months in captivity, the rescued victims from Woro community in Kwara State returned to Ilorin, where the state governor received them and pledged to strengthen security and protect communities across the state. As the clock ticks towards the Osun State governorship election, Inspector General of Police meets election stakeholders, says police is determined to ensure a peaceful election in the state. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana weighs in on the controversy surrounding the freezing of Osun State government accounts. And Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan signed joint defense agreement in Mecca, stipulating that an attack on one of them is an attack on all three.
And on business news, Nigeria's foreign direct investment jumped 148% to $4 billion in 2025.
On sports news tonight, Team Nigeria's Jessica Oji becomes the country's first ever field event gold medalist at the World Under-20 Athletics Championships after winning the women's shot put title in Oregon.
From the nation's capital, federal government says it is committed to reducing poverty, creating opportunities, and improving livelihoods through sustainable development.
We begin from Kwara State, where Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak has received the freed victims of Woro community in Kayama local government area. The victims, who spent more than 6 months in captivity, were received at a private location that is, in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital. Now, the governor expressed gratitude to President Bola Tinubu for sustaining the efforts to ensure that communities in the state are safe from bandits and terrorists. We sincerely apologize for the loss of audio in that report, but we'll definitely return to it later. Moving on, while Kwara State celebrates the freedom of its victims abducted in Woro, of course, elsewhere, it's another moment of celebration, this time in Ogun, as 7 students of the state-owned ICT Polytechnic, Shakbade, in Remo North local government, who were abducted by kidnappers, have regained their freedom following a joint operation by the Nigeria Police and other security agencies. These students were rescued in the early hours of Thursday after spending about a week in captivity. Addressing journalists in Abeokuta, Governor Dapo Abiodun assures residents that his administration will continue to strengthen the state security architecture, particularly in the provision of logistical support to security agencies.
We rescued 5 and we handed them over to their respective families. We reunited them. But before then, we took them for medical treatment to police medical services. And early hour to the helicopter with the ground forces stormed the kidnappers den and also rescued the remaining 2 victims. And thereafter, we have successfully arrested 2 of the kidnappers as we speak. They are with us and they are singing. And we are still on the trail of others while the operation continues.
Security remains a shared responsibility, and I urge all residents to continue providing credible information to the appropriate authorities. Let me reassure every resident, every investor, every visitor that Ogun State remains safe and secure and open to legitimate business and investment. Our administration will continue to strengthen intelligence gathering, deploy modern surveillance technology, improve operational mobility, and provide the logistic support required by security agencies to stay ahead of emerging threats. While we thank God for the safe rescue of the victims, we must not become complacent. Kidnappers, bandits, armed robbers, cultists, and every violent criminal must understand that Ogun State is not and will never become a sanctuary for criminality. Together, through vigilance, cooperation, and decisive action, we shall continue to preserve the peace, security, and prosperity that define our dear state.
Now, a similar scenario played out in Edo, where the State Police Command rescued 4 victims abducted along the Lagos-Benin Expressway during a coordinated security operation. The victims were kidnapped at the tail end of last month, or towards the end of last month, when 3 armed men disguised in vigilante uniforms blocked the Uboko axis with logs and leaves before attacking motorists and taking some victims away. A combined team of security operatives launched a bush combing operation supported by drone technology to help rescue the victims. The sustained operation forced the kidnappers to abandon them and flee. Now, the rescued victims have since been reunited with their families, while the police continue the manhunt for the fleeing suspects. Ahead of the Osun governorship poll, the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, has read the riot act to political actors in the state, warning that the force will deal decisively with perpetrators of election violence. Speaking in Abuja at a meeting with members of civil society organizations, Mr. Disu says the police is determined to ensure a peaceful governorship poll in the state. He assures residents of Osun and Nigerians that the Nigeria police remains non-partisan and will be deploying massively for the election.
Security and election violence in Osun State are the main focus of this meeting as civil society organizations visit the Inspector General of Police in Abuja.
DIG Adeboke Mustafa, PSC, MNI.
The Executive Director of Civil Society Legislative Action leads the conversation as he shares the concerns of members of the civil society groups.
We are worried that the political tension in the country is not something we should joke with. The safety and security of Nigerians during this very important exercise, very important.
The conversation shifts to specific areas of concern.
The Osun elections is strategically important. It is important because it is the last major election to the 2027 elections. Therefore, it has a lot of significance. And it's a unique opportunity to inspire public trust, not just in the management of the election, but in election security.
Recommendations for a peaceful governorship election in Osun State are then highlighted.
Whether it's the Anambra elections and the Ekiti elections, we've seen how the police has greatly performed. And our expectation is that the force will maintain that record by not yielding to any external pressure to undermine the integrity of the election.
The Inspector General of Police reads the Riot Act for the election, assuring residents of absolute neutrality of the force.
Elections should be contest of ideas and policies, not violence or intimidation. No political ambition is worth the loss of single Nigerian life. Political leaders must prevail on their supporters to reject violence and respect the rules of law. I encourage the people of Osun State to come out peacefully and confidently to cast their votes, because we are going to ensure we keep the city, the state safe for everybody to come out and cast their votes.
Tension has trailed to the process leading to the governorship election in Osun State, including accusations and counter-accusations of partisanship of the force. However, the police is vowing to ensure that the exercise is incident-free.
As part of efforts to ensure a peaceful governorship election in Osun State, the national chairman of Accord Party, Mr. Maxwell Mbudem, is calling on President Bola Tinubu and the electoral umpire INEC to ensure there's a level playing field for all political parties. Addressing the news conference at the party's national secretariat in Abuja, Mr. Mbudem says the political tension in Osun State and the actions of the EFCC is a deliberate attempt to frustrate the administration of Governor Ademola Adeleke. He adds that Osun has been under siege by persons he describes as anti-democratic forces who are determined to harass, intimidate, destabilize and disenfranchise the electorate in Osun State, even as he appealed to members to come out en masse and vote on August the 15th.
Gentlemen, one after the other, the grand plot to stabilize the Accord government in Osun State failed woefully and will continue to fail as the people stand with their performing, compassionate and visionary governor. The integrity of the election is essential for sustainable democracy in Nigeria. As the last second governorship pool before the critical 2027 general election. Accordingly, INEC should be at its best in conducting a free, fair, credible and inclusive governorship election. The Commission should put its act together and ensure that all electoral materials are adequately test-run to avoid glitches and hitches. There should be no excuse whatsoever for poor performance. Bearing in mind the political tension in the state, expectations of the people and activities of anti-democratic elements that want to force an unpopular candidate on the people. Accord calls on the international community, civil society organizations, election observers missions, the Nigeria Bar Association, the media, development partners, well-meaning Nigerians, opposition political parties, and all citizens of Osun State to rise in defense of democracy by speaking out against any conduct capable of undermining the credibility of the forthcoming governorship election.
All actions taken by security agencies should be in line with the rule of law. That's coming from legal luminary Mr. Femi Falana, while speaking over the freezing of the Osun State accounts by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC. Mr. Falana faults the interference of the president, adding that he should have directed the Attorney General instead. He was our guest on our political program, Politics Today.
Under the law, EFCC has the power to freeze the account of the federal government or of any state or local government in Nigeria. This matter was settled in the case of Attorney General of Benue State and EFCC in 2022. When the law changed, we can go to the National Assembly. But for now, as of today, EFCC has the power to freeze the account of any state, and in not more than 72 hours, has to go to court. In this instance, the Osun State government has challenged the legality, the validity of the order, not the timing. Because we must also be very careful that we don't give a dangerous impression that when elections are 10 days away, 20 days away, 30 days away, the anti-graft agencies must turn the other eye. Don't look at the state or the federal government. And so, if funds are being moved to the tune of billions of naira, don't look at them. Don't look at those funds because elections are coming. It's a very dangerous impression that is being created. Because what the president said is that you have not exercised your power legally. You have a court order. However, I'm being accused of manipulating federal agencies in Osun State. Therefore, go to court and see how you can have the order vacated. The president of Nigeria will have advised the Attorney General of the Federation, I'm disturbed by the development in Osun State. Oh, please, can you take over the case? And the Attorney General will have exercised his powers under Section 174 of the Constitution of Nigeria by taking over the case. And upon taking over the case, the Attorney General will either announce to the court, my Lord, I've taken over this case, I want to withdraw this case.
In part two, after the break, the governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress in Benue State commits to a single term of 4 years to support the emergence of a governor from Benue South Senatorial District in 2031. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. After spending more than 6 months in captivity, the rescued victims from Woro community in Kwara State returned to Ilorin, where the state governor received them and pledged to strengthen security and protect communities across the state. As the clock ticks towards the Osun State governorship poll, the Inspector General of Police meets election stakeholders, says police is determined to ensure a peaceful election in the state. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana weighs in on the controversy surrounding the freezing of Osun State government accounts. And Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan signed joint defense agreement in Mecca, stipulating that an attack on one of them is an attack on all three. Now, earlier we did tell you that Governor Abdurrahman Abdurrazak has received the freed victims of the Woro community in Kayama local government area of Kwara State. All the victims were received at a private location in Ilorin, the state capital, where the governor expressed gratitude to the president for sustaining the efforts to ensure that communities in the state are safe from bandits and terrorists.
After 6 months in captivity, these residents of Woro community gather at a private location in Ilorin for a state reception. Abducted on February 3rd, these women, children and nursing mothers now arrive at Sobe Barracks. They undergo extensive medical and psychological evaluations before their handover to Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdurrazak. The military says a massive joint operation comprising the armed forces, the DSS, the NIA, and the police secured their freedom.
Again, I want to use this opportunity to thank and to say thank you to the other security agencies who have been very helpful in all the efforts we're making. This today is an example of the synergy that exists within security agencies in the country.
Tragedy, however, marks the rescue. Survivors say 13 children died in the bush, while 25 women and boys are now forced spouses or new recruits for the bandits. A visibly emotional Imai of Kayama mourns the dead.
We thank God we are able to do this. Though we lost some people in the transit, but that's nevertheless we appreciate. Our appreciation go to His Excellency, the President, for his humble support, the security agents, and we collect we have the IG before he came, the IG was there. All the military personnel, the brigade commander, and all the rest were all there. And we thank God we are able to come to this stage today.
Addressing the survivors, the governor reveals he secured increased military deployment after 4 meetings with the president. He calls the abduction a regrettable tragedy.
This is one gathering that evokes mixed feelings. It's regrettable that the war incident happened at all. But at the same time, we're grateful to God and just that our collective effort has paid off. Everyone has been rescued alive.
The governor and his entourage later visit the General Hospital. They check on 14 victims still receiving care, including 3 women who delivered babies while in captivity.
Nutritional deficiency, which the pediatrics are currently looking into.
Speaking to the press, the daughter of the Woro community chief, who is a nurse, and a mother recount their harrowing ordeal in the bush.
Every day they will give us one bag of unicorn without oil, pepper, nothing. There is a day that they don't even give us the salt Maggi again, just salt. And they will just add like kuka. I don't know how to pronounce it with English. That one they will give us. At last, they just stop giving us that one. The guinea corn is the one that we do soup with it. Eat it like that with salt sometimes.
As the dust settles, the state government assures the victims of full support, ongoing rehabilitation, and safe reintegration into society.
Now to politics, and of course the governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress in Benue State, Mr. Herman Hembe, is committing to a single tenure of 4 years to support the emergence of a governor from Benue South Senatorial District in 2031. Now, the former House of Representatives member explains that the gesture is aimed at addressing the 50 years marginalization of the zone in the state. Mr. Hembe made the declaration at the presentation of his running mate, Mr. John Abba, in Makurdi, the Benue State capital.
Leaders from the African Democratic Congress in Benue State converge on Makurdi, the state capital, for the official presentation of his deputy governorship candidate and grassroots mobilization strategy. The ADC governorship candidate, Mr. Herman Hembe, is joined by the Chief of Staff to former Governor Samuel Otom and former Commissioner for Finance, Mr. David Olofu. The state chairman of the party believes the party has assembled people with integrity that will build a better Benue through grassroots policies and development.
Today's event is not merely a political ceremony, it is a significant milestone in our collective journey toward building a better, stronger, and more prosperous Benue State.
The governorship candidate then presents his running mate, Mr. John Abba, who hails from Otukwu local government area in Benue South. The 4-term member of the House of Representatives pledges to serve a single term and support a candidate from Benue South in 2031.
Hopefully, God will give us power and give us the opportunity in the next 4 years to take Benue out of these doldrums. I say 4 years because unlike many others who are making the mistake, I am of Jejera extraction. The governorship has been zoned in Tivland to Jejera people. We have only 4 more years to spend in government house, after which we should consider the people of Zone C to have a go at the.
In his acceptance speech, Mr. Abbas says it is a call to greater service and to contribute to addressing the challenges in the state, while the party's senatorial candidate from Benue South urges the people to take advantage of the pledge by the governorship candidate and support the party.
It is a call to greater service, a call to confront the pressing challenges facing our dear state and to provide practical, people-oriented solutions.
It will not be a Benue South governor, it will be a Benue State governor, but from Benue South. That is our expectation, and by the grace of God, that is the policy that this party will pursue and implement.
The party says it is focusing on building robust grassroots support with particular interest in rural development to support Benue's agri-business and boost the state economy.
In 2015, Shell Petroleum agreed to pay $55 million to the Bodo community as compensation for oil spills that devastated their environment. In 2025, the company announced its divestment to Renaissance Africa Holdings and Energies, officially exiting the Niger Delta. End of story, right? Well, not quite. It may interest you to know that new revelations from internal memos disclosed in UK court documents show that the corruption and negligence within Shell run far deeper than previously thought. In this report, our correspondent Charles Operum sheds light on the situation.
For decades,
Shell Petroleum Development Company has drilled beneath the soil of Rivers State, and for just as long, conflict has simmered beneath its footprint. Oil spills, litigation, quiet out-of-court settlements. You'd think the story ends there. It doesn't. Internal Shell documents unearthed in the UK court reveal something far darker. Shell knew a pipeline was failing and let it bleed anyway. The evidence lives in Amnesty International's new report, Nigeria, Lifting the Lead, a document that dismantles Shell's decades-old defense that theft and sabotage alone caused the spills. Buried in the paper trail is a pipeline Shell's own staff nicknamed the Basket. They knew it was broken. They let it run. Profits over people. To understand what that choice costs, we travel to the creeks of Budo in Gokana local government area, ground zero for spill after spill. A youth leader leads us to a ruptured pipeline where crude bleeds silently into the water. This is what he showed us.
Globally, Budo City happens to be the community that has suffered even much more than the Gulf of Mexico oil spillage. This is the global point of oil spillage in the whole world.
Back in Abuja, Amnesty's country director lays bare a system of double standards. Nigerian operations quietly exempted from the safety rules Shell enforces everywhere else.
Unfortunately, in Nigeria, these documents revealed that Shell decided to ignore its own internal standards. And these documents expose that in the exchanges by senior managers, showing that what they allowed to happen in Nigeria in terms of negligence and leakages, destruction to the environment are things that they never allowed to happen in any country. And that is why we call it a scandal, a double standard. And we believe that with these revelations, it is now time for the Nigerian government to do the right thing.
He goes further, alleging some Shell staff were complicit in the very oil theft the company publicly blamed on militants. Yet he holds on to hope that Nigeria's government will finally act.
So if you look at the report, there is a part where we shared the email exchanges, where clearly, there were even allegations internally that some people in Shell are also being part of all these alleged crimes. So therefore, these documents have now put to rest the much mentioned blame placed on the host communities, on militants, on bunkers, and many other things.
The pipeline in question, the 150,000 barrel a day Nembe Creek trunk line, running near Bile, a community now gripped by different terror, gas bubbling ominously beneath its waters. Environmental activist Celestina Pobari lays the blame squarely at Shell's feet, accusing the company of walking away from its wreckage by selling off to Renaissance Africa Holdings.
If they were to give an award to any corporation for telling lies, Shell should be number one. Shell should be number one, because I don't understand why they are always talking about difficult terrain when you are asking that they should do good. But when they want to take oil, there is no difficult terrain. There is nothing good about Shell. Why are they running away now and changing their name into Renaissance?
Shell's exit was finalized in 2025. Clean on paper, but much like old wine in a new scheme. Same staff, same facilities, but with a brand new name, Renaissance. When we reached out to Renaissance, they declined to comment, asking that we go to Shell Petroleum, a company that technically no longer exists in Nigeria. From the bubbling waters of Bile to the flames of Ofionimama to the oil-slicked creeks of Ogali and Budo, the Niger Delta tells one story again and again. Pain, sorrow, and tears. The oil that was meant to be a blessing has become, for its own people, a curse. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's foreign direct investment jumps 148% to $4 billion in 2025. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Let's head to the nation's capital now, and Millicent Walker is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Millicent.
Hi, Tunde. Many thanks. It's a promise from the federal government that it remains committed to empowering Nigerians through sustainable development programs aimed at reducing poverty, creating opportunities, and improving livelihoods. The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Mr. Abubakar Bagudu, stated this in Abuja at the inauguration of the Board of Trustees of the Umar Zakat Foundation, an initiative of the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs.
Part of the responsibility of the ministry is to engage with all groups, all stakeholders, to see how we can improve government programs, how we can implement them better. That's why among the mandate, expressly, we register and monitor development partners. How can we put governance structure in all the 8,809 wards of the country and adopt a whole of society approach, foundations, religious leaders, traditional rulers, and all, so that we map out the economic potential, economic and social opportunities in each ward, because they are distinct in their own ways. And if we can target what is done and how people live in those wards and ensure that the different programs of governments and development partners and foundations are speaking to each other at the ward, we will achieve better outcomes.
Can the current minimum wage still meet the present cost of living? Because the labour unions in Nigeria have commenced preparations for negotiations with the federal and state governments for an upward review of workers' salaries, stating that the national minimum wage of 70,000 naira is no longer sufficient. The development is part of the outcome of the Right of Workers Summit in Benue, the Kebbi state capital, to commemorate the 88th anniversary of the legalization of trade unions in Nigeria.
Labour and trade union leaders converged on Benue Kebbi to deliberate on workers' rights, decent work, and the impact of the current economic situation on Nigerian workers.
1938, the legalization of trade unionism was done in this country. We were not a sovereign state then. 88 years after that legal instrument came into effect, we are gathered here today to look at the impacts that legal piece of legal framework has had and is having on the improved condition of workers in this country. And therefore, enhancing the 4 pillars of decent work as propounded by the ILO, which includes employment creation, which corporate governor is actually working assiduously to create jobs, right at work, which I think our laws have made it possible for us even to speak at this forum, social protection, and then social dialogue. Part of what we are doing here is actually social dialogue.
However, Governor Nasir Idris of Kebbi State, who is the former president of the Nigerian Union of Teachers, supposed to call for a review of the national minimum wage, assuring the labor leaders that his administration will implement any new national minimum wage approved by the federal government.
My humble self, I will support our leaders. I will support the salary review. And ensure that we are committed of government and the labor and alliance, like we did it before. I assure you we will do it again.
The highlight of the event is the presentation of awards to distinguished personalities, including Governor Nasir Idris, in recognition of his contribution to the welfare of workers in the state.
Away from workers' welfare, allegations of rigging and corruption that trailed the just concluded election of the Nigerian Bar Association have been dismissed by the president, Afam Osigwe. He stated this after the inauguration of the executive of the FCT chapter of the association in the nation's capital. Mr. Osigwe explains that though there were technical glitches during the exercise, it did not affect the outcome of the election.
The allegation, as I've heard it, was that there were what people called disenfranchisement of voters, that some persons who wanted to vote did not vote. There was no allegation that people paid money or that the system was corrupted or that there was rigging. Now, nobody had, because the Electoral Committee has published the names of those who actually voted. And this has addressed the previous allegation people have that because we conduct electronic voting, that names are preloaded in the system or that people's identities are stolen and votes cast on their behalf. And since the publication of that list, no person has come out to say, I did not vote, my name appears there. My identity was stolen. So to correct the impression, there was no allegation of corruption. Unfortunately, our system suffered cyber attacks, which disrupted the electoral process and did not start until 7.5 hours later. And now this caused a bit of unease. And then because of some systemic glitches, which I'm sure the ECMBA will address in their report, and which is also the subject of dispute resolution before the NBA National Officers Election Appeals Committee, I will not be able to go into.
Meanwhile, the FCT chapter of the NBA has set up a task force to counter the activities of fake lawyers in the nation's capital. Chairman of the chapter, Mr. Yakubu Philemon, says the association will be partnering with regulatory agencies to ensure that no document is filed without the seal of an authenticated lawyer.
We will also provide affinity cards for our lawyers to see that anytime a lawyer appears, he appears as a recognized lawyer within the FCT. Also, we'll partner with various agencies within the FCT that are regulatory in nature to ensure that there is no document that is filed within the precincts of their office that is without the seal of a lawyer, that is authenticated seal of a lawyer. So on our branch, we also have an enforcement, on our level, we have an enforcement committee partnering with an NBA national body to see that we fish out some of these lawyers and hand them over to the police, because what they are doing is impersonation and it is illegal. So we proactively set up a task force for that.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. Back to Lagos, where Ayotunde is standing by with the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Millicent. Project New Nigeria, in partnership with the Niger Delta Development Commission, has intensified efforts to encourage young Nigerians to obtain their permanent voter cards and participate actively in the democratic process. The campaign, which held at the 1,000-seat TED Fund building at the University of Uyo, also included an educational empowerment initiative during which scholarships were awarded and tablet devices were distributed to the students.
Ahead of the 2027 general elections, Project New Nigeria is taking its voter education campaign to tertiary institutions, encouraging young Nigerians to obtain their permanent voter cards. Convener of Project New Nigeria says the initiative, being implemented across the Niger Delta in partnership with the Niger Delta Development Commission, is designed to increase youth participation in elections.
We want you to join us on this project. It is about a new way of thinking, a new way of leading the society. Now, especially in the university environment, you people have things you want government to do for you. You have a way you want the university to be run. We have come to make that possible. But that cannot be possible if we do not have the power to do so. Our power is our PVC and our voting. I have a message for
The NDDC is asking young Nigerians to see democratic participation as a responsibility, stressing that meaningful change begins with voter registration and the collection of permanent voter cards.
To our young people gathered here today, you are the acts of the new Nigeria we all seek. Your energy, your brilliance and your voice will determine the direction our nation takes. But for your voice to be heard, you must take the simple, powerful step. Register to vote. Also ensure you collect your PVC. Without the PVC, you cannot exercise your civic right.
Popular content creator Savinus says the empowerment program is deliberately linked to voter education to encourage young Nigerians to use their voices through the ballot.
I'm looking at the main motive of this initiative. You can see right well why we are giving back to the students. We are still using that as an opportunity to tell them to get their PVCs, because without PVC we can speak out in one voice.
I feel really excited this evening to be a beneficiary of this, what NDDC has done, and I want to say a very big thank you to them. I really appreciate it. I don't know how to say, but my heart is red. Thank you so much.
Some beneficiaries receive scholarships and tablet devices as part of the initiative's educational support, providing them with valuable resources to enhance their learning experience and academic success.
Time now for business news with Will Ibong.
Thank you, Ayo. Nigeria recorded a strong rebound in foreign direct investment in 2025, with inflows rising to about $4 billion from $1.6 billion a year earlier. That's an increase of about 148%, according to the UN Trade and Development World Investment Report 2026. And the report shows that global FDI rose 6% to 1.6 trillion naira in 2025. However, Africa attracted just $70 billion. And that's about 4.3% of global investment, as capital inflows to the continent declined 26%. While Nigeria's rebound was driven by mainly oil, gas, and energy investments, the report says the country should now prioritize higher quality investments that supports industrialization, creates jobs, strengthens local businesses, and boosts export competitiveness. Now, speaking of investments, Nigeria is targeting up to $50 billion in offshore oil and gas investment by 2030 as it moves to boost crude production and attract more private capital into the energy sector. According to the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, the target will be driven by 22 major offshore projects expected over the next 5 years. It adds that more than $57 billion in field development plans have already been approved. The Commission says the investments will create jobs, strengthen energy security, and support Nigeria's goal of raising oil production to 3 million barrels per day by 2030. Now let's check in with the domestic equities market, which extended a positive performance to end the final trading session of the week. Yes, in Jamaica.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report. And it's good that this week we had more gains. Today, that solidified that position because the market gained over 230 billion naira. And then the market cap, however, is still around 158 trillion naira. But the oil share is 0.15% in the green, and we're sustaining the 250,000 level. Now, when we look at the sectors, we see a bit of good news there, driven mostly by the fuel gas. Fuel gas today, we see they did so well. So banking is up over 1.5%. Consumer goods is almost unchanged, but a bit positive. Well, oil and gas is on the flip side. And talking about the fuel gas, major drivers of the market. First, Hoco is still holding positive sentiment in the market. UBA is also positive, but GTCO missed out of the party today. Access positive as well as Zenith. So you can see that the big guys, they drove the sentiment in the markets today, and we see more balancing in the sentiment of the market. But I guess at the end of the day, we have a good weekend because the bull is back.
Thank you, Neil. Let's see how other major stock markets performed this Friday. And that's business news. I am Will Ibang. It's back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Will. Simon Hughes is up next with our international news from around the world in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. According to Thai authorities, at least 7 people have died in Thailand after a teenage boy allegedly shot his grandparents and school teachers. The suspected shooter, a 14-year-old male student, is also dead. The boy was said to have killed his grandparents at his home on the outskirts of the capital Bangkok before going to his school. Emergency responders were dispatched to the scene where students and school staff had been seen running for safety. Authorities have asked the public to stay away from the vicinity of the Devasirin School in Nonthaburi. The Devasirin School has branches across Thailand and is widely associated with educational prestige.
The nature of the suspect himself, that is not quite clear. What we do know is that the suspect is a student and also has came in the morning into the school and has started firing inside the school with a handgun. Also, he was wearing a cross-body bag, suggesting that he also has more rounds. There were reports about him reloading his firearm to continue the shooting.
To carry any weapons in the public is already illegal in our country. But in this case, there were many other factors to cause this incident. So we have to wait until the investigation has been complete, and I'm sure that the police department will summarize and publicize to the people.
Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan have signed a joint defense agreement saying an attack on one of them would be an attack on all 3. The pact was announced at a meeting between Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in the Saudi city of Mecca. The 3 countries have been looking to strengthen security ties as the war between the US and Iran has drawn in Saudi Arabia and disrupted shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. A US judge in New Mexico has ordered Meta to pay another $567 million for its failure to warn the public about dangers its platforms pose to children, marking the largest fine against the company over child safety. The judge said the social media giant is a public nuisance akin to air pollution and that it must put the money in a fund aimed at reducing future harms. The ruling is in addition to $375 million in fines Meta was already ordered to pay in the case, for a total of $942 million. A spokesman for Meta, which owns and operates Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp and Threads, said, "We disagree with the ruling and will appeal."
Okay, take your time. I'm getting my BRT ready.
NASA astronauts Anil Menon and Jessica Meir have live-streamed an hours-long venture outside the International Space Station for a spacewalk to install mounting hardware.
Inside, for Jessica, she mentioned the BRT. That is the...
Copy. I'm going to pull it out a little bit more. Okay, hold it there.
The hardware will prepare the station's 3B power channel for the future installation of new rollout solar arrays. The spacewalk lasted around 6.5 hours. And an Australian aviation crew has carried out a daring midwinter mission to rescue a US expedition member from a station in Antarctica in freezing conditions and total darkness. Sky Traders said the extraordinary mission took place last Friday after a request for urgent help with a medical evacuation from McMurdo Station. After an initial delay due to the weather, the aviation company said it was able to land its Airbus A319 in extremely challenging conditions, including temperatures of minus 43 degrees Celsius. The patient was then safely transferred onto the plane known as Snowbird 1, which carried on to Christchurch in New Zealand, where the patient was treated. He is now said to be recovering well. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. History has been made at the World Under-20 Athletics Championships in Oregon as Nigeria's Jessica becomes the country's first ever field event gold medalist at the World Under-20 Athletics Championships after winning the women's shot put title with a sensational throw of 18.08 meters. The Nigerian, who won silver at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, produced an outstanding 18.08 meters in a second attempt to secure the historic victory. Before Oji's triumph, Nigeria had never won a field event title at the World Under-20 Athletics Championships. Esther Agatises won silver medal in the women's long jump in 2002 and Chinecherem Nnamdi's bronze medal in men's javelin throw in 2021. The 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations now enters its knockout phase on Saturday, with teams bidding for a place in the semi-finals and automatic qualifications to the FIFA Women's World Cup in Brazil 2027. The first quarterfinal for tomorrow will hold at Stade Moulay Rashid in Casablanca, where Cote d'Ivoire takes on Algeria. Attention then shifts to Rabat, where host Morocco meets South Africa at Stade Moulay Hassan. The encounter is a repeat of the 2022 CAF WAFCON final, 1-2-1 by Bayana. And still at the WAFCON, Super Falcons forward Joy Omawe and Tony Payne say the title holders will get better in every game as they target our World Cup ticket in their clash against the indomitable Lionesses. They told our sports correspondent Cecilia Mogbe in Rabat, but the criticism has made the team more determined to achieve results in every game. That's sports. Is back to you, Ayo.
And the main news again. After spending more than 6 months in captivity, the rescued victim from Woro community in Kwara State returned today to Ilorin, where the state governor, Abdurrahman Abdurrazak, received them and pledged to strengthen security and protect communities across the state. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Do have a great weekend and good night.